This is We Burlesque.
The following episode of the Movies That Made We, Ookie Spooky will contain spoilers for all of the films referenced in the show notes. Additionally, discussion may include triggers for trauma due to the provocative nature of horror media, not limited to sexual abuse, racism, ableism, homo and transphobia, violence, self-harm, and animal death. Corresponding clips of these films may feature visually distressing content.
This is We Burlesque, the podcast, and this is the Movies That Made We, Oogie Spooky, where I get to talk to nightlife, specifically burlesque professionals, and find out what movies have influenced them on stage and off, and made them into the dark, mysterious creatures that they ended up being. I'm very excited to have with us today Monet Hasidi and Miss Violet DeVille. I'm going to give them a second to tell you a little bit about themselves, as well as what they're currently watching. Monet, let us hear.
There, I am Monet Hasidi. I am located in Sacramento, California. I recently just saw the movie Pearl for the third time, which is my current obsession, which was the prequel to X, which I saw 5 times in the theater. I recommend both films. I did have a friend guinea pig for me watching Pearl without seeing X first, and they're going to let me know how that goes after they see X. But both films are amazing, and Mia Goth, they never recognize horror actresses for the wonderful things that they do. But Mia Goth's monologue in Pearl is like 8 minutes and is phenomenal. And it's up there for me with Toni Collette's monologue from Hereditary. So yeah, I recommend you seeing those 2 films.
Excellent. Miss Violet DeVille, tell the class more about yourself and what you're watching.
Hi, I'm Violet. I'm based in the Seattle area, East Side, Kirkland, technically, out in the wilds of suburbia. The last film that I actually got out to go to the theater to go see and really enjoyed was Nope by Jordan Peele. And I loved it. It gave me a lot to think about in terms on how we as a culture deal with spectacle. But again, a fantastic movie. And holy crap, Michael Wincott was in it, and I haven't seen him in ages in a film. Yep. Again, fantastic.
Excellent. Well, I'm excited to hear your thoughts on 3 movies each. I know it's difficult, but we're narrowing it down just to 3 films that have either made a massive impact on you presently or in the past. Monet, we're going to start with your film, your first film, and then we're going to talk about it. Tell me what you first are bringing to us.
So my first film I'm bringing should be no surprise to anybody, and you should have figured it out based on what I'm already wearing. It is, of course, Midsommar. That film, and the anniversary of me seeing that film for the first time, it just passed. I actually wound up seeing it 9 times in the theater when it was released. And I didn't see it until the director's cut was released in the theaters. And it was a way to get me off Smashing Pumpkins, because Smashing Pumpkins was playing Shoreline that night. And I was like, at that point, it's like, I'm never going to see them again. But damn, I could still go. And my wonderful friends, Denise and Andy, was like, hey, let's just go see this movie. And I remember seeing the previews for Midsommar when I went to go see Us. And I remember looking at it and thinking, quite frankly, like, this is some weird white people shit. Like, I don't even know. And they're in the sun and I fucking hate the outside. Like, what the fuck? And I kind of really had no interest in seeing it at all, to be honest. And then when we went to go see it, because I love dressing up, because that's what I fucking like to do, I dressed themed from the movie, not even seeing it yet when I went to go see it. And the opening scene with her family, I was just like, wow. And the relationship that she had with Christian, if you've ever been in an emotional, abusive relationship with a narcissist who has gaslighted you, to me, that's what he represented. And it was such, like, finding out the movie was actually just more about the relationship is like the scary part. But then like the gore is also like top notch. Tessupah scene, like, oh my God, like just everything about it. And I think I only saw one person walk out of the theater once. I think it was my third time seeing it, was during that scene. But every time I'd watch it, it'd be so funny. And I'd ask couples like how they felt about it. And a lot of the times, like the more like femme presenting one would be like, I fucking loved it. And then the more masculine presented type would be like, no, I didn't like it at all. And for me, it's funny because one of my exes, I told him, I said, you're the one ex that I wouldn't like skin a bear carcass and stuff you in. Like, I would not. And he was like, okay, thank you. But speaking of which, I made a bear, the Hex Your Ex bear. Oh, I dropped my joint. Where I skinned a teddy bear and put a Ken doll in it. It's my little friend, And then I also have this wonderful bag made by Backstitch Bruja, which when I saw that, I was just like, oh my God. I've also done a burlesque act that was in a Swedish virtual burlesque festival, which was like a midsummer act in a Swedish burlesque festival is like full circle dream come true. And I do have a few more acts up my sleeve. And then last year, Frankie Fingerling had put together a birthday show for me called Meatball Sex Club, because if you watch the movie, one of the characters talks about, are we going to stop at any meatball sex clubs on our way up there?
Mm-hmm.
And so like, and then Sydney Sin had made the logo of the sexy meatball. And yeah, but that movie to me, like during the quarantine, I remember I would deflower people and watch Midsummer virtually with them for their first time, because that was all about, because I'm like a cult. And the funny thing is, for my birthday last year, I made my dad watch it on my birthday. And then a few months later, we were at a burlesque show, and Gabby from Cafe Colonial, who let me shoot my virtual shows there, she's like, what should I put on? I said, put on Midsummer. So she fucking put it on at the bar, and my dad comes out. He's all, look, it's our movie. And I'm like, the fact that my dad is like, Midsummer's our movie says a lot. And he understood like me as like why I love the film. And now I think I've opened some weird door, because he was talking to me about Mother, which I was like, you fucking watch Mother by yourself? And I was like, so yeah, but Midsummer is it's a very powerful. And actually, while we're doing this podcast, I have it on my TV too, silently in the background.
Ari Aster bringing families together.
Oh, God.
Can I just tell you how much I love your bear?
Oh, thank you.
Monet loves a theme.
I do.
I mean, that's some grade A nerd stuff right there, and I'm here for it.
Thank you.
So deconstructing Midsummer, and just as an FYI, this is a spoiler-friendly zone. There will be a warning at the top that we will discuss some of the elements of the films that are, the plot. That's sort of how it has to go. And in some cases, like Midsummer, it's sort of been one of those, you have to see it, but you're walking in either completely blank slate, or you have seen the iconography and just don't know how it contextualizes. Because even the trailers show people jumping off of the rock. Mm-hmm. Iconography includes merchandise of the bear costume, or the bear suit, as it were. Her crying in the flower gown. So it's sort of interesting to sort of be like, these are like little patches that eventually you get to see what the quilt is made out of. One thing that I really was startled by, because I also saw Midsummer, the extended cut, in theaters. I only saw it the once. I'm sorry. I'm a poser. I was amazed at one of the most successful aspects was how bright it was. It was sometimes
the cinematography
too much.
It's stunning.
It was startling to see horrific events in broad daylight. There's something really not just unnerving about that in general, but the starkness of it, because you see sky, and it's like almost to the point of like it was a lot, but it was very powerfully created.
To me, like, because they filmed it in Hungary, I believe, and not actually Sweden. and they had constructed that whole village where the Harga lived. And because of the Hungarian Film Commission, you have to destroy the sets, which is so sad for me because, like, I swear to God, I would fucking go there. Like, it would be no hesitation. I would go to where they filmed that film. And just because when you walk into it too, like the detail, like when they first go into that barn and see all the artwork around it, the detail, and then the costumes are made out of 100-year-old linens. And everything that you see, especially in the May Queen dance scene where everybody's wearing, is all hand embroidered. And that's another reason why it should have got some Oscars, because I'm like, that was a lot of fucking work that they did for that.
I know that this is weird, but it's because it's alien.
No.
We haven't been exposed to anything like
No,
this.
Kristen, no, please. This is completely backwards.
We just need to
leave.
acclimate.
I don't want to acclimate. I want to go.
Well, I can't. I'm sorry. Period. I'm doing my thesis on this.
What? Since when?
Since I decided today. You know how much of a nightmare this has been for me to figure out. And I've made the mistake of telling Josh, and now he's competing with me.
So if he wants it, let him have it. We need to leave.
Can you not see what's going on here? This level of tradition? No one's seen this. No one's written anything on it, and they've invited us to be a part of it. Can't you see what a privilege that is?
Why invited us?
Because Pele did.
Why to Pele?
Because he trusts us.
Why would they trust us? You're opportunistic anthropology students.
Maybe because we're anthropology students.
Oh
Maybe they
my
want someone to
God.
document
Are you
this.
fucking blind? They're doing pagan rituals. People are jumping off cliffs. They depend on no one knowing about this ever.
Not necessarily.
Okay, I want to leave.
Okay, then you can leave. But I'm staying. I invited you, and I don't regret that, but I'm here for a reason.
Do you not love me anymore?
What does that have to do with this?
We're in the devaluation phase. We've been in it for a long time, and next comes discard.
Can you spare our relationship
No,
your
I'm
textbook
not. I'm just
psychology
saying.
keywords?
We've been in this for a while. You've been trying to pull away, and I've been in denial.
Please, give yourself some credit, babe. Looks like you've got this all figured out.
What?
Actually, you know what? I'm gonna say one thing. When you casually gift me an impromptu bouquet of flowers, that just makes
What
me think,
flowers?
how and when am I supposed to pay that back? Everything you give me is a reminder that I'm not doing enough for you in this relationship.
What, at lunch? I picked those on a whim.
Oh, don't try to tell me that you had no ulterior motive.
Yeah, what
On your
motives do
birthday,
I
the
have?
day after I didn't get you something?
Are you being serious?
Okay, fine. Play the wounded party again. You're just a self-denying altruist, and I'm a paranoid dick. You don't have a conniving bone in your body.
What is it you imagine I'm conniving?
You are, Danny. I feel locked into your debt every time you do something just
I don't
because.
keep you in my
because
debt.
it's never
I was
just
being
because.
Kind. I was being kind.
Okay, fine. I'm the asshole.
Nobody's the asshole.
I clearly am. You selflessly gave me flowers, and I feel trapped. Fuck.
Are you actually gonna leave?
I'm supposed to be working here.
You're gonna leave me like this? Christian!
And I was also so obsessed with the film that I actually created a Facebook page for the film so I could be in a relationship with the film.
Why do you think
Valid.
Violet, I want to hear your thoughts of it if you've seen Midsummer, but and also this question applies to you as well. Why do you think we at a point in time, so much of our horror, we're stripping away the implied metaphor, the implied trauma that horror has always featured? It's always been about attacking the other or the other surviving. It's always been about xenophobia. It's always been about racism. It's always been about these things. It's been a communism. Why do you think we're at a point where it's like, no, we're just going to tell you this is what it's about? Why are we stripping away the metaphor, do you think?
Well, I mean, I think part of it is because our world has gotten so damn horrible, actually, in the grand scheme of things, right? I mean, there's people, there's all these things that have been going on, right? In our politics and our culture, how polarized we've all become. And I wonder, I feel like that is a reaction, right? That's stripping away of the metaphor, that's stepping in, being very blunt faced. This is what this is. I wasn't going to talk about it, but I saw Let's Play during the pandemic, and I don't know if you've seen it.
Let's Play. Remind me just.
I like to refer to it as the Babadook Kindle edition. It's an app that this spirit Larry comes out of.
Oh, okay.
And ends up, and the POV character is a non-verbal autistic child. The ending of it was heartbreaking and joyous at the same time. But again, I think I think the reason why we see less and less metaphor is just because there's horror all around us these days.
Yeah, I get you. Monet, thoughts?
I mean, I do agree with Violet, she is right when, the world is fucked up. And it's wild to me because this is maybe off topic, but kind of like, I don't, for one, like as a Black woman, most of our films are rooted in Black pain and trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And I have now made it that I will not say any of those types of films any longer. When I went to go see Nope, which I've done a burlesque act based on Get Out so far, and watching Nope, the moment when Michael Wilcox said the purple people eater, and then I was like, fuck, there it is. So anybody's interested, I'm working on a Nope act, and like, if you've seen the movie, I can explain in detail about like what it's going to be about, and I'm would be very excited to do that. Anyways, there was a preview for the movie Till, and it took me aback because I went into Nope wanting to see Black people, but I didn't want to see Black people in peril and trauma.
Right,
and
this is the Emmett Till film?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm like, this story isn't for me. I know. I'm just like, I'm not about that. So horror movies also for me lately has been playing a catharsis for me in the fact that I have to deal with microaggressions literally on a daily basis just for breathing and existing.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went to go see Kim Jeong and Joel McHale the other night, and the fucking opening comic was homophobic, transphobic, ableist, fatphobic, slut shaming, sex shaming,
all racist, the hits, all the
everything. Yeah. I was like, oh my God. And so I was like, let me go see Pearl again, because I can see some people get hacked up, and that will like help me, because I'm like, I can't hack up anybody. Like in real life, serial killers, like y'all have a lot of energy, be having jobs and relationships, and then have time to kill people and hide evidence. Just saying.
Planning alone.
Like I'm too lazy for all that. I'd be like, and then it'd be like, call the cops. I'm too late. I can't finish that shit. So the energy that you have for that. But for me, like just watching something like Pearl or Midsummer, like are my comfort films. Like literally when I went to go to Hawaii to see New Kids on the Block, and my first day there is walking, and this lady, and excuse the language, trauma, trigger warning, racial slur. This lady asked me if I knew where such and such was. I said, I'm sorry, I'm not from here. And she's all, they're just going to call you fucking nigger anyways. And I was just like, so like upset that I actually went back to my hotel room and just watched Midsummer for a few times to comfort me. So these horror movies are speaking to things like Hereditary, like families, like I love that movie too. It's just literally, I don't know, the world is not a very nice, happy place, especially for those of us who don't subscribe to being a certain type of way. And for me, it just allows like me, it's nice to know that I'm not alone in that feeling, I guess, because other people have experienced it too, because Ari Aster wrote Midsummer after a breakup. I don't know though if he's Danny or if he's Christian. I don't know if that's ever been asked because I haven't figured that part of it out yet.
Well,
But
you know what they
it's-
say. Sometimes as an author, you get to include you get to slip in little bits of yourself too,
Be the hero and the villain.
because you don't just see people as they are, you see them as you are.
Yeah.
And Eisner once famously said, and I agree with that to a degree, but I wonder if one of the reasons that he has been so successful is because he is 36, so he is young, he is relevant, and he is willing to go there in a really grandiose way, because these are very if they weren't so committed, it would be melodrama schlock, but because they're so committed, it's an art film.
Mm-hmm.
But if it had been just done ever so with, if it didn't have these fantastic actors or this commitment to the cinematography, it would be like, oh, shut up. Well, excellent. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack with Midsummer. It is, as you said, again, it's a movie I've only seen just the once in theaters, but since it is available now on other platforms. Just a very quick question before we move on to our next film. What did you notice is the difference between the extended cut and the standard version? Not necessarily in terms of what scenes they didn't make room for, but in terms of the trajectory of the story.
So for me, because I did see the director's cut before the regular version, watching the director's cut gave me a better understanding of a few things. And especially when it comes out that she's coming to Sweden with them. The part, like a lot of that, the way it was cut out and the way that it just is the gaslighting in that scene. And just like other things. I rarely watch the regular version, but it's on right now because it's Amazon Prime, but I do own it on VHS. The director's cut, the Japanese version, a friend sent me, somebody sent me the Italian version.
Are they all slightly different?
Artwork and stuff.
Okay.
So I have a few of those, and I have it downloaded on my tablet for when I travel. So that's why it helps me when I was in Hawaii.
Yeah.
But I think to me, like the director's cut just adds just a little bit more, and fills in a few gaps of stuff, because from watching that, you then know how, spoiler coming, Connie died, because the scene from the nighttime that they put in there is, so there's a few different things in there.
Okay. So it's additional footage as opposed to different takes of the same scenes.
Yeah,
basically.
It's just a whole completely like 30 minutes or something added to the movie.
All right. Yeah, we are at a point, I guess, where I was amazed that there was a director's cut released in theaters, because usually that's something that used to take a long time, because there's used to be, with studio meddling, of which there's an abundance of still. It took a long time for a movie to gain enough recognition and awareness and to get that cult classic status and that director to become somebody to get that. So I was impressed that the studio is like, okay, no, you're right, we'll do the extended cut.
Well, A24 is responsible for such varying interesting content.
Yeah,
like just as a brand, like I realize, I mean, am I A24 whore? Maybe a little bit.
We accept it. We accept you. Miss Violet DeVille, you're on deck. Tell me about your first film.
My first film. Well, so I grew up in the mean streets of Aurora, Colorado. No, it wasn't that mean. It was, again, suburbia. But it was the early 80s, and this thing called cable TV had come in, and we had, the big three movie channels at the time. And that's where I discovered horror movies. And I think the first one I ever saw was, in fact, Alien. I would have been about 9, maybe. Hi, I'm just, by the way, entering my filthy 50s here in like a week and a half. So, hey, it'll be fun. It'll be exciting. And I had no idea what I had just watched, but Alien has been a comfort movie. Clearly, it imprinted itself on me ever since, which was, to me, growing up. I always love the fact that whenever you talk about the movie, right, the advertising billing gave Tom Skerritt top billing in the film. He's dead by the end of the first act, which I always thought was genius. And the impression that Sigourney Weaver left with her portrayal of Ripley, who didn't even have a first name in that movie, was striking to me. I mean, mind you, at the time, I had no idea. I just thought I was a little boy watching movies at that point. But the fact that, here she is, she's doing all these things to stay alive. She's the one who's trying to stay calm in all of this. And of course, you have people who don't want to follow protocol and thus endanger everybody. But again, just to see all that imagery at such a young age, I'm pretty sure that had an impact on me. I love the fact that as I grew up and really dug into the story behind the film, I love the fact that it was written. None of the characters were written as being a specific, explicitly male or explicitly female. I mean, granted, this was the 1970s in Hollywood, which meant male as the default all the way around. But I love the fact that they took two of the characters and they changed them to women. And then they weren't, and none of the characters were copies of any of the others. They were all distinct and individuals in it. And of course, then there's that iconic scene where, where the chest burster bursts out of his stomach at the dinner sequence. Yeah, fun fact, nobody knew how that scene was going to go when they shot it. Well, none of the cast knew how that scene was going to go when they shot it. And the camera that caught Veronica Cartwright's expression when the blood squirted at her was totally unscripted because she wasn't expecting that. And it was in fact a mishap with the blood squib. That was my first film. And it's one that I return to frequently when I just need to go sit down and meditate. Although I don't have any burlesque acts to it, ironically.
There's still time.
There's still time. I mean, I feel like I'm missing something here.
I've seen a few Alien burlesque acts.
Yes.
I haven't seen the movie a lot, but I'm just looking to see where it's streaming. So I think it's on Amazon. So I think I might check it out in the next.
The base concept is truckers in space.
Yeah.
Well, it's one of those. It's a bottle episode. It doesn't leave the station. None of them are military, meant to be like, this isn't like Predator, where they go in as an oppressive force and then something attacks them. These are working class, essentially.
Yeah, Yaphet Kotto was in that movie. Rest in peace. Yes, because I grew up as a Black person knowing who he was because his name too. Yeah, but I've only seen parts of it, so I think I'm gonna check it out. But I already knew like everything that kind of happened, and I know
it's one of those. It's one of those films that has those legendary moments and scenes that you kind of have to know, because again, it's entered our cultural zeitgeist, so we've seen it parodied. If anyone's seen anything from Spaceballs to Family Guy to Saturday Night Live, it's going to feature those high points. I have to say there is something really cool about the styling of it. It's basically, and then there were none, or where each person gets dropped off one at a time but we know who the killer is.
I mean, it's a really effective haunted house movie.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think because it's so oppressively singular in its location, you're right there with them. You're right there with them. And it's the sort of the antithesis of Midsommar, which is bright, and the Alien is dark.
Dark. Yep.
It's dark.
The company sent us a goddamn robot.
All I can think of is they must have wanted the alien for the weapons division. He's been protecting it right along.
Parker, will you plug it in?
Yes, I can hear you.
was your special order?
You read it. I thought it was clear.
What was it?
Bring back life form. Priority 1. All other priorities rescinded.
There's a damn company. What about our lives, you son of a bitch?
I repeat, all other priorities are rescinded.
How do we kill it, Ash? There's gotta be a way of killing it. How? How do we do it?
You can't.
Bullshit.
You still don't understand what you're dealing with, do you? Perfect organism. Its structural perfection is matched only by its hostility.
You admire it.
I admire its purity. A survivor. Unclouded by conscience, remorse, or delusions of morality.
Look, I've heard enough of this, and I'm asking you to pull the plug.
Last word. I can't lie to you about your chances, but you have my sympathies.
We're gonna blow up the ship. We'll take our chances in the shuttle.
One of my favorite sequences in Alien is towards the end, and it's Ripley psyching herself up to do something about the xenomorph on board. And she's singing to herself to calm her nerves, right? It's this expression of vulnerability, yet determination.
Yeah, they're very human performances. Well, most of them, with the exception of the great Ian Holm, perhaps.
Right.
Now, as you said, you saw this at a different time in your development. You did not necessarily have all of the clues and exposition in your personal life to realize who you would end up being. There is, of course, a little Easter egg about Veronica Cartwright's character Lambert.
Yep.
Can you expand on that?
That was actually revealed in the sequel in Aliens, when Ripley is confronting the board members of the Weyland-Yutani Corporation. There's bios up on the screen behind her, and of course they're going by pretty fast, so you don't really get any of the details out of it. But when Fox Home Video released the Alien Quadrilogy box set, which I have out there, surprise, no one, that Veronica Cartwright's character, who's Lambert, is canonically transgender. And, you know, again, product of its time, played by a cis woman. Not that term was heavy in the vernacular at that point. Hell, transgender wasn't even heavy in the vernacular back then. But I always thought that was a nice bit when the quadrilogy box set actually had all of that laid out in the bonus features for Aliens. The language was very clearly, this is a transgender character.
Right, as opposed to simply saying, well, they were genderless or
Right.
default mask until they cast them and they just didn't change that. Yeah, that's pretty neat. And again, I've spoken to a few folks in terms of trans representation, both on this podcast and in the side series, that having a non-trans person play a trans character is always going to be less than great. But having a cis woman playing a trans woman is at the very least potentially less divisive than the opera. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So yeah, and I suspect that it was really, I don't know how much of that was James Cameron, who wrote the script for Aliens. I don't know how much of that was some production designer who decided to sit down and toss this into the background information as they were building the slide deck for that scene for set dressing, or if it was someone who was building out the box set, decided that this needed to be defined. But the fact that it slipped by the corporate censors, the standards and practice folks at Fox, just kind of makes me giddy in that little bit of subversiveness.
Yeah, people sneak it. That's I mean, that's what we as queer people did before we could be even that much more seen. These little bits that we're able to insert. It's a great ensemble, and it is a shame we feel for them as they are picked off one by one. But there is something to be said that they walked in. they didn't ask for it, but they sort of let this happen to them, with the anticipation that they would, I guess, answer a rescue call. But it is similar, as you said, Monet, that as a lot of the films that you've been drawn to are white people doing some stupid shit that they got themselves involved in. And while yes, there are people of color characters within Alien, a lot of white people make some stupid decisions in Alien to get them to that point.
It is a definite social critique of capitalism.
The true villain of the piece, because really they're in the aliens' domain. You can't say shark-infested waters. That's where the sharks live.
Well, I mean, to be fair, on that derelict spacecraft, I don't think that was the aliens' spacecraft.
No, I mean, that's the thing also with Alien, Star Wars, even E.T. These science fiction films are so lore heavy.
Yeah.
And you never see all of it. But what I really love is that the nerds will find a way to eventually either get that out of the sequels or in the corresponding merchandise and auxiliary material.
So can I just start calling you the burlesque Ian Malcolm now, because nerds will find a way.
Nerds will find a way.